Okay, today we're going to go over a quick field clean and part inspection on a Ramset Cobra. So first off, you can follow along in the operator's manual. There's some instructions here on what I'm about to do. So if you're off on your own, you can kind of go through this. Otherwise, you can use the video. So I don't have a whole lot of tools here to do this. I have a small flat blade screwdriver, and I have the two brushes that come with the Ramset Cobra tool. So to start, this tool was kicking off to the side a little bit, a lot more recoil than normal. So we're going to go inside and figure out what's going on with it. It's a fairly new tool. Doesn't look like it's had a lot of shots on it. So we've got the serial number of the tool here. And so we'll go ahead and take it apart. So I've got my flat screwdriver here. I'm going to rotate this clip just around partially. You just want to move it just off the pawl here in order to remove the pawl from the tool. This one is coming out pretty easy. Sometimes they stick a little bit. But if you take off this clip, what will happen is there's a check ball that's sitting inside this housing. You'll lose the check ball, and then the barrel will kind of flop open each time you go and use the tool, rather than being retained as it is now if I hold it kind of at an angle. So once I've got the pawl out here, I'm just going to remove the barrel from the tool. So I put the housing off to the side. So now I have the barrel. It's a two-piece front barrel. So I'm going to take my little screwdriver. There's a little horseshoe-shaped clip, a shear clip here. And you'll want to inspect the shear clip. Remove it, push it up, try to pull it off with your finger. It's very easy to lose this clip at once. It's spring-loaded. It'll kind of, fly off in a direction that you'll wind up losing it or something. So if that's the case, we do have in this little bag of parts, there is that extra shear clip there. So moving on, we've got the front barrel, the rear barrel. So we're just going to separate that apart. Got the front barrel. I'm going to kind of pull that down. We've got the muzzle or the fastener guide, the front barrel. I've got the rear barrel, and then this is the piston. Sometimes you can pull the piston out. This one's a little tight. So I'll take my screwdriver and kind of push that in a little bit. Now it gives me a little bit more grip. I can pull that out and then take a look at the piston itself. The end's not too bad. We probably could dress the end, but as I turn this around with my fingers, you might see that there's a little bend in it, or a little hook toward the end. That's the reason why this tool was kind of given a little bit of a kick or a lot more recoil than normal. The piston ring looks pretty good. Overall, this tool looks pretty clean. Doesn't have a whole lot of shots. We just have this little bend in the piston, which has given us a problem. So there's nothing we can do about that. We're going to have to kind of discard this, put it off to the side. So if I've got a new piston here, and what we can do is kind of compare, and you can kind of see as I rotate the old piston around, that little bend that's in the end, that's sometimes all it takes. So we've got the new piston here, okay? What we want to do, we'll take the rear barrel with one of the brushes, the smaller brush that comes with the tool. We're going to just kind of, run the brush up through just to remove any residue. This tool is very, very clean, looks almost new, so we're not going to get a whole lot of stuff out of that. We'll take the larger brush and do that to the front barrel. We can kind of rotate that through. Again, this is fairly clean. We're not going to get a lot of stuff out. I'm going to take that brush down the inside of the tool here. Take that out. And then the other thing I like to do is take the little screwdriver here. These things, a lot of times you can get them free at trade shows. They're free handouts. If you got to buy one with a nice small, flat, narrow blade to it. I'll take this flat blade and I'll kind of take it down the strip tracks and scrape those off. A lot of powder residue collects in these areas, but again, since this tool is fairly new, we're not going to find that. So, tool is fairly clean. So now what we can do is put it back together. So I've got my new piston here. You can see the end looks very, very nice. Got the ring and everything on there. If I compare it, I've got some other pistons here. I can show you here a little bit. These are worn, older pistons. The tips on these, they're chipped a little bit, but they're not too bad. They don't have very big pieces of material taken out of them. We could probably dress this with a grinder and then put that little angled chamfer in the end and probably get, you know, another 1,000 or so shots out of these. So the one thing I notice about this piston here is there's a discoloration here where it would hit the end of the fastener guide or muzzle. This tells me that the tool's been overdriven before. That little area here, discoloration. So we may want to address that with the end user. Could be too short of a fastener, too powerful of a load. Could be a number of different situations like that. So I've got my new piston here and my clean rear barrel. I'm just going to put this in. Push it back all the way. Should go in pretty tight. I can't really pull that out, so if I take the screwdriver, again, push it from the back, it's going in pretty tight, so that's a good sign. So now what I want to do is I want to grab my front barrel, put the fastener guide or muzzle back in it. This one here, I'm noticing that it had been hit before by the piston. And there's some notches and chips taken out of it. If I was in a repair situation and had this part available, I probably would replace it. But since I don't have another part to put into it, I'm just going to use it as is. So this should be okay. We do want to address the situation, though, or in the circumstance that would cause the piston to hit this in the end. So it could be, like I say, too hot of a load, too short of a fastener, something like that, too soft of a base material. So that just kind of drops in like that. And we're going to line these two pieces up. So the slot here and the slot here should align, go together. Okay, I'm going to flip this around. I'm going to grab the shear clip. The shear clip shouldn't have any bend to it other than kind of what you see here. A lot of times one of these legs will be bent in a different direction. That's a good indication that the end user has been slinging the tool off to the side. If they cycle the tool, this clip will bend. But like I mentioned, there's a replacement inside the little bag that typically is in the box of Cobra tool parts. So I'm going to put this back in. You want to be sure it's on this side and not covering up the slot. So put that in, kind of wiggle this a little bit to kind of get it in place. It's in place, that's what holds that in place. So when it's in the tool, this pawl is going to slide up and down this slot to return the piston when you go and cycle the tool. So I grab my tool body. I notice there's that little ball bearing that's down in here. That prevents the tool, like I say, from flopping open. So I'm going to line this slot up when I put it into the housing. Should slide right in there fairly easy. I'm going to take the pawl, okay, and drop this in place. What I like to do is open up the barrel. That will kind of pull this pawl forward and make it a little easier for me to slide this clip around. So sometimes you need a screwdriver, sometimes you can rotate this clip around with just your finger. Yeah, this one's not too bad. Slide it around. We've got it locked in place. Close the barrel. And then always we want to do a function check. Sounds good. Everything seems to be fine. And so that's the front end of a Cobra tool, kind of a field strip and clean and fairly simple operation.